Lions Lowdown, we bring the lowdown, we bring the lowdown, we bring the lowdown.
G'day Lions fans, and welcome to a changed format for this week. It's Ash here. There's no teams chat as our AFL and VFL teams have both already played and recorded good wins, might I add. I'll review the VFL tonight, but we'll have the AFL side of things for you early this coming week. So there's a bit to get through, so I'll jump right into it.
Rolling down the line on a westbound run, chasing that white line, I'll run in the sun from the Melbourne yard to Brisbane town, headed north, leaving ghosts behind. This highway loves me like I love the chrome, rolling down the line, never alone.
Big news today was the AFLW season fixture has finally been released, and we have a good look at the match schedule and venues for the season for the AFLW team that's coming up. So all of the Lions games are scheduled on Saturdays and Sundays, which is pretty handy. I know there's some other games that are apparently scheduled midweek, but I haven't looked at any of the other teams' games yet. So the girls will play 6 matches at Brighton Homes Arena and a total of 7 games in Queensland out of, I believe, 12 rounds. So that's pretty good. That's a lot of time spent in the home state, which is pretty handy. I guess the Victorian fans miss out a little bit here because there's only 2 games in Melbourne against Collingwood at Victoria Park and Essendon at Windy Hill. I don't think the women have played at Windy Hill before, so that'll be really handy to get some experience there and a sort of a historical venue as well as Victoria Park, obviously. And that's Victoria Park in, well, Abbotsford, but Collingwood, not the Victoria Park in Brisbane, where the men's team and probably the women's team at some point will be playing home games in the future. So the season opener is up against Hawthorn on a Sunday afternoon at Brighton Homes Arena. And also at that venue is the grand final rematch against North Melbourne in round 5. I don't know why these are classed as big notable games by the club, but they made a big song and dance about round 3 against Carlton and round 7 against Richmond at home. And they're like sort of made that out to be against big Victorian clubs. Well, Carlton are no good, so yeah, they're not that big. Port Adelaide will travel to Brisbane for the first time in their AFLW history, which is, I think, about, 4 or so years old now. That's in round 9. And round 11 is a night game, Saturday night game against Melbourne. And within the first 4 rounds, there'll be away games against Fremantle and Adelaide. So I think in the first sort of 4 to 5 rounds, I think they play pretty much all of the top 8 teams from last year. But, yeah, take a look at that on the Lions website if you want to know more details, or on the AFLW or AFL app as well. And just a little bit of a footnote. So Bree Brock, who's the head of the women's football department at the Lions, mentioned in the press release that the team is preparing for the upcoming season and will face all of the other 7 finalists from the 2024 season throughout the season. So, yeah, 7 out of 12 games are up against the other 7 good teams from last year. So, yeah, look, it's going to be a tough fixture, but Craig Starcevich and the girls have shown in every other previous season that they're up to it, and you can never knock them down no matter what you do. So I'm sure they'll be back bigger and better this season and hoping to get a bit of revenge on the Kangaroos come grand final time.
I might have been outsmarted, maybe played just a bit. She walked that fine line, yeah, she's good at it. Didn't say a word, but said so much with those eyes that laughed, those hands that never touched. Now he's showing up and I'm stepping back. Guess I read the wrong signs, fell off track. Still I meant every word and smile I started, even if I might have been outsmarted.
Right, bit of AFL news, and I've got a much bigger opinion on this one than what I'm going to give you on the podcast because I'm time restricted somewhat. So the AFL's restructured executive leadership, redistributing responsibilities previously held by Laura Kane, who is the league's executive general manager of football. Well, she was, I guess. So Kane will now focus on overseeing the AFL, AFLW, VFL and VFLW competitions, as well as leading a new healthcare and medical team addressing mental health and concussion management. A new general manager of football performance will be appointed to handle areas such as umpiring, player movement and innovation, and a few other bits and pieces. So the change to Laura Kane's role follows a bit of criticism over recent incidents, including the handling of a disciplinary case involving Willie Rioli of the Port Power and a concussion incident with Lockie Schultz where the umpires just completely got that one wrong. And the AFL didn't handle the subsequent whatever happened next as well. So CEO of the AFL, Andrew Dillon, said that the restructuring aims to strengthen the league's operations and has been part of an ongoing review of leadership roles, claiming there is no gender bias in this decision, or the one to essentially sack inclusion and social policy manager Tanya Hodge. Make of that what you will. However, Hodge's sacking does come at a weird time right after Sir Doug Nicholls' round and a day before the AFLW fixture was released. Interesting, fun times in the boys' club, if you ask me. So my personal thoughts on Laura Kane is basically that Dillon has used her as a patsy for his stuff-ups and basically just wheeled her out to the media whenever he's been too weak to face up to the consequences of his many shambolic actions that he's overseen on his watch as the boss of the AFL. I think a lot of the time Laura's just sort of pushed out there and said, this is your narrative. We'll give you some really vague information to work with and you can make up the rest while you're under pressure from the media and the intense questioning and so forth. So, yeah, look, I think the pressure gauge on Laura Kane will drop a bit. I'm not as downbeat on her as a lot of other people are. I think she's done okay. She's done the best she could considering the circumstances I've mentioned already in this and in a couple of other episodes and privately. I won't go into it anymore, other than to say the AFL is a bit of a shambles in a lot of ways at the moment. It does need to work hard to get a few things right. So hopefully this restructuring will get that done. That remains to be seen.
It's smoke in the city, dust in the bush. We're tired of the speeches and political push. You wanna earn your keep, come dig this hole, stand on this dirt, feel its soul. No more handshakes, no more spin, time for the bush to rise again. 'Cause we're more than a backdrop, more than a vote, we're the fire you lit, and we're taking the road.
Rightio, so straight onto the VFL. Now, I had all this recorded and set to go a couple of days ago, but we had trouble saving the file, so I'm slipping it into this video now so it doesn't get missed. And that's round 9 of the VFL from last Saturday. That resulted in a loss to Box Hill by 19 points. And just a quick summary, the Lions started strongly, leading by 28 points at quarter time, but were unable to maintain their advantage as Box Hill gained momentum in the subsequent quarters. Key contributors for the Lions included Ty Gallop, who scored 3 goals. Like I said on the AFL episode earlier in the week that he's kicked 4, but they did change one of those. And I'm pretty sure they allocated that to Jimmy Tunstall, who got the 1 goal and 19 disposals and played pretty well. And Bruce Reville returned from injury to pick up 18 disposals and 7 tackles, while Tom Duday, Harry Arnold and Shadow Brain were serviceable in defence. Now, there's been a few differences of opinion on Tom Duday, but the club were pretty happy with the hit out that he had and the progress that he's been making. So we'll jump right into round 10 of the VFL now. which took place today. That's Friday at Brighton Homes Arena in a really weird time slot at 12:05 p.m. on a working day, on a school day. Stupid idea, AFL. You got to be better at this. You really, really do. And I just want to say, further to my rant about the AFL stuffing up time slots for VFL and AFLW games when they're supposedly trying to get people to watch those games and go to them. There is an AFLW game involving the West Coast Eagles, and I can't remember who they're playing, but it was brought to my attention. That will be on at 9:50 p.m. Eastern States time. Yes, that is correct.
He's still here, but not really. A shadow of a man, worn out and weary. This brave new world is loud and cruel, and he's drowning in the silence of a world too full. He's still here, but not really.
I just shake my head in disbelief at some of these decisions that are getting made. This is one of the worst ones. Nobody outside of Perth is going to watch it unless they're an insomniac. And that's not to say that the AFLW isn't worth watching or that, you know, it's good for putting you to sleep, because that's not true. It's just, it's on so late, 9:50 p.m. Let that sink in. So you get it right, AFL. All right, so I'll get back to the VFL now. So our boys had a 20-point win over Essendon after trailing by 20 points at quarter time. The team responded with a strong second quarter, narrowing the deficit to 5 points by half time, and then a strong performance in the final quarter, including 3 goals from Will McLaughlin, who seems to be a final quarter specialist at the moment, and a really big long goal from Zane Zakostelski, who I don't know how many goals he would have kicked for the Lions in his time, but he kicked a few for Claremont at Colts level before he got drafted. And yeah, that last quarter performance ensured the win, so that's good for the boys. I think I tipped a 30-something point margin, but 20 points, 34 points, 37 points, whatever, it's close enough. Just having a look now, other key contributors were, as I said, McLaughlin, who ended up with 5 goals, 3 of which were in their last quarter, as I mentioned. Darcy Craven got 3 goals as well. He's a good little live wire small forward, having a great season. He could be in line for a senior call-up at some point. It is going to be hard to break into that team with the form of Kyle Oman, Calamarchi, and Charlie Cameron sort of coming into some better form as well. Fergus McFadden, Curtis McCarthy, Sam Marshall, and Taj Aberley also got amongst the goals. McFadden, McCarthy, and Aberley obviously not AFL listed players, but Marshall is. And at some point in the very near future, I hope to see him get another opportunity after he got a token run against Collingwood a few weeks ago. And in defence, Harry Arnold had another good one. He got himself 9 marks and 17 disposals. Tom Duday, another good game, 7 marks, 15 disposals. It's going to be hard for him to push someone out of the AFL team to get in, though. And that's fine. I mean, competition for spots makes sure that everyone plays at their optimum every time, right? That's how it's meant to work. So, yeah, look, I would love to see Tommy get a go, but, yeah, it's just a matter of finding where he fits into the team. And it could be a situation where we might have another short turnaround in the AFL and someone gets rested. Because you got to think as well, we do have Brandon Starcevic back in full training, and he'll be available at some point in the next sort of 3 to 5 weeks as well. Dev Robb backed up after having about, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that minutes on ground last night in the AFL. He played pretty much a full game, got 29 disposals, and Jimmy Tunstall was good with 25. I think both of those guys are too good for the VFL, but sort of, I guess, not quite good enough to be stars at AFL level. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, at the end of the day, I said it a million times before and I'll say it again, Hugh McCluggage, Josh Dunkley, and Lockie Neal are the guys they've got to try and push out, and they're all having great seasons. And how bloody good was Hugh McCluggage last night in the AFL? 41 disposals and a whole bunch of other stats. Like the guy has to be leading our best and fairest by a mile at this stage of the season. And yeah, I reckon I'm going to tentatively say this. He has to be in the running for an All-Australian jacket, potentially. And there's even a bit of talk in the media today about, well, his odds have shortened for the Brownlow, so he's a big chance now. A lot of people gambling on him. And, yeah, go for it. That's fine. All right, so just to wrap up the VFL there. So the result marks the Lions' 6th win of the season, and we now sit 4th on the ladder with another home game coming up against Williamstown at 1:05 p.m. next Saturday. And as I've previously stated in previous seasons, I won't be watching that game because I barrack for both teams. That's just one of the quirks of the VFL system. At some point, Williamstown won't have to play against Brisbane, or Brisbane won't have to play against Williamstown, whichever way you look at it. And all things will be fine. But yeah, I hope both teams win, and I hope neither teams lose or have any injuries. That's all I can say about that. All right. I'm going to move on now.
10,000 miles from home, where I feel every shot alone. I fight, I crawl, I ache, I break. There's no end to what this war can take. Tell my little girl her dad's still strong, even if I've been gone too long. Love don't echo in bullet zones. 10,000 miles from home.
So the frenzy about Cooper Hodge within the media circles at the moment. So there's a lot of talk around at the moment regarding Cooper, son of Luke, and where he'll end up playing at AFL level if he's good enough to get there. Now, where he sits at the moment is that his father's son eligible for the Hawks. Luke played a shit ton of games there, but he can also be selected by the Lions as an academy pickup because he is part of the academy at the moment, and obviously he's pretty much grown up in Queensland for all of his high school years anyway, probably some of his primary school years. Calls Queensland home, loves it up there, and he's pretty happy living up there. The Hodge family, Luke and mental blank, Loz, pretty sure it's Loz, his partner, wife, they have said many times that they love living up in Brisbane as well. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting decision. But look, I will say at this point in time, the biggest frenzy seems to be more coming from the media who's just desperate to create a rivalry between the Hawks and the Lions over this. And they're trying to make it into a massive talking point, which really kicked off as we played Hawthorn on last weekend, and it seemed to be in the lead up to that and across that weekend. And they tried to whip it up into a huge frenzy. And, of course, a lot of Hawks fans are upset because they think the media are taking the Lions side, and Lions fans are just kind of seeing it a little bit differently. I've seen comments made by a member of the Hodge family who said publicly that there's a lot of water to go under the bridge between now and Cooper's draft year. Luke has said similar things when asked by his media colleagues. Now, my thoughts are that everyone needs to settle down and relax. He'll make up his own mind when he's ready. And as I said, if he's good enough to play at the level, and that's a big if at this stage because he's still got a bit of time to develop and see what he wants to do, he can choose whichever way he wants to go. And to be honest, playing for Hawthorn will come with a huge amount of pressure, obvious pressure, being the son of a club legend, four-time premiership player, club captain, multiple best and fairest winner, and all sorts of things like that, 300 gamer. So it will depend on whether he's capable of brushing that off. But on the other hand, playing for Brisbane will come with a different type of, probably equally as big level scrutiny. So he may choose to go into the open draft and take his chances like Mark Murphy in years gone by. He's eligible for the 2026 draft, which is still a year and a half away anyway. So there's another draft in between now and then. And just a bit of sort of our history with the father-son situation. So a lot of people may not realise this, but club legend of the Fitzroy era, Kevin Murray, his father Dan played in the 1944 Premiership. So that was one father-son situation that paid off. Kevin played over 300 games, won a Brownlow. And then we had, obviously, Jonathan Brown in the late 90s into the 2000s. His father, Brian, played just a touch over 50 games, I think, for Fitzroy. And Jonathan, there was a little bit of draft tampering going on there. He could have gone to Collingwood, but he sat out of a draft. Everybody knows this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know in that regard. And he was obviously a massive champion of the club, Coleman medalist, multiple club champion, 3-time premiership player, and multiple All-Australian jackets, as well as being a club captain. And one of the most loved and liked players to ever pull on the jumper for the Lions, Bears, or Fitzroy. I was going to say the Lions, Fitzroy Lions, but Fitzroy also the Gorillas and Maroons, as we know. So, yeah, anyway. So, yeah, a much-loved figure there. Now, not so much luck with Jordan Burke, son of Damien, who played for the Bears, who wasn't a father-son eligible selection, but he was still given an opportunity by the club. Josh, I was going to call him something else then, Josh Clayton. He is the son of Scott, who played for Fitzroy and the Bears. Didn't really pan out. I'm pretty sure in one of the old 5-minute warning episodes where I talked about the father-son selections, I'm pretty sure I said that Josh only played the 2 games. He played pretty well for Southport in a period of time there, ironically with Tyler Roos, son of Paul Roos. And, yeah, he didn't really pan out at AFL level, though. Casey Voss was one, son of Michael, who just didn't quite get to the level. He wasn't quite what the club thought would be good at AFL level, but he's been an absolute star for Sturt in the Sandful. I think he's won a couple of best and fairest there. And good mate of mine, Jared, who's a diehard Sturt man, absolutely loves him. So, yeah, good on him for Casey, but, yeah, didn't quite get their father-son level with the Brisbane Lions. One of Daniel Bradshaw's boys didn't get there either. Matt Rendell's boys ended up choosing other avenues. One of them's over in the States, playing college football now. Ironically, he played in their version of a grand final against not Xander, Joe Maguire, the other son of Eddie. And I'm pretty sure he's played against Mason Fletcher, the son of Dustin, as well. So Ross Lyon will be having a field day calling this bunch of Nepo babies, but come on, Ross, give it a spell. So, yeah, anyway, obviously Jasper Fletcher, Will Ashcroft and Levi Ashcroft have spoken for themselves with their performances, so I don't need to go into that. But, yeah, so, yeah, it's the Victorians supporters of other clubs who are having a whinge about our academies and whatever. I mean, your next generation academies, which are meant to be for disadvantaged migrants and Indigenous and guys from other sports, I ask you, were Lachlan Johnson and Jamara Ugle-Hagan really that disadvantaged and unable to play AFL if they didn't go to their club's academies? Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Even though neither of them have sort of worked out too well.
They took the heart but left the bones, shut it all down from their glass homes, wrote us off in a boardroom call, watched our lives through a profit fall. No train, no jobs, no use for names, just a postcode buried in capital gains. They took the heart and left the bones.
All right, I will finish up now with my tips for this weekend. I already tipped Brisbane to beat Essendon, which I got right. Got the margin wrong, but yeah, whatever. As long as I got the winner right. And I got 8 last week, and I think 7 or 8 the week before. So I've rocketed up the charts now. And old mate Al, he's dropped down a little bit. I think he's been forgetting to put his tips in for a couple of weeks. Come on, Al, one job, mate, one job. All right, so there's only 7 games this round, so they'll be spread out a little bit across the weekend. My tips are Collingwood to defeat the Hawks, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Hawks bounce back and get a win here. I guess everyone's got their watchful eye over what they're going to do after we gave them a smacking last week. I got the Suns over the Dockers. Giants to take care of Richmond. That should happen. Swans, I think, will bounce back against Adelaide. Melbourne will continue their winning run against the Saints. I'm pretty sure that's being played at Traeger Park in Alice Springs. And Geelong will be too good for West Coast over there. Port, Bulldogs, Carlton and North have buys this week. And I agonised over who to have as my captain in my fantasy team this week. I'm pretty sure in the end I've gone with Jordan Dawson. Yeah, I had to make some changes and roll my team back after I made some trades. And then I realised that, oh no, there's 4 teams with buys and I've just traded in guys from 3 of those teams. So, yeah, I figured it out and I've managed to, every player that is named, I think you have 18 or whatever it is, 22 or however many it is. Every one of them that's named as a starter has a little green dot next to him. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got Jordan Dawson as my captain again. He was my captain 2 weeks. No, actually, he was my captain last week. I've got Bailey Smith up against West Coast. I reckon he might crack the 300 mark with the double points. I guess we'll see how that goes. All right, that'll do me for tonight. Watch out on our YouTube and other socials this weekend for the return of the top 5s, which are all listeners' choice. So if you have a Lions, Bears, Fitzroy-related top 5 you want me to do, send them in on the social DMs, Instagram or Facebook. Probably Instagram's the one that we check the most. And you can also email us at brisbanelionspodcast@gmail.com. And producer Steph, who is taking care of the inboxing, the DMs and the emails these days, she will crack her whip in my general direction, which is what she's already done tonight, because she's dragged me out and said, mate, I buggered it up earlier in the week with this VFL stuff, and I promised the listeners that I would make it up to them. So get in front of your camera and your microphone and waffle on a bit and go on a few tangents, but not too many because we want to keep it short. No worries. All right. I'm off now, and remember to keep supporting independent footy media and your local footy clubs. And if you're going to watch local footy, rug up because it's going to be a cold one this weekend in Victoria and in Brisbane, I believe, as well. So, yeah, until next time, I'll see you when I see you.
Hi guys. The boys need your help to connect with you so they can grow the podcast. Give them a follow and switch on notifications for whichever podcast platform you listen on, and don't forget to follow and subscribe on the socials. Just look for Brisbane Lions Lowdown in all of the usual places, and you can email them by brisbanelionspodcast@gmail.com. Cheers guys, and remember to support independent media.
One more thing. Joke of the week is back after a couple of false starts where it mysteriously disappeared. I'm looking at you, Stephanie. Yeah, joke of the week was about Richmond the last couple of weeks, and producer Steph being a Richmond supporter. I know. You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your workmates. Well, you can, but yeah, whatever. Yeah. Anyway, where was I? So the joke of the week sent in by... Dude, that's not your real name. Eric Berry. Eric Berry. That ain't your real name. And then you watch, I'm going to get a screenshot sent of Eric Berry's Facebook account or something, and then I'll just look like a dick, which is fairly normal for me anyway. Anyway, Eric Berry, possibly not his real name, sent in this joke. The 7 dwarves are trapped in a mine when they are buried by a rockfall. Snow White rushes to the blockage to see if she can find any sign of life. And as she listens, she can hear a faint voice singing. I'm not going to sing it, but you can just imagine how the tune goes. Good old Collingwood forever. Thank God, says Snow White. Dopey's still alive. Cheers, guys. I'll see myself out.
Now you'll go on with your picture-perfect frame, and I'll keep walking with this heart in my name. I won't rewrite it, I won't pretend, but if you ever ask me, I'd do it again. 'Cause here's the truth with no need to defend. You were more than a crush I tried to suspend. You were hope in a year that forgot how to shine. You were home for a minute before you weren't mine. And even if you never looked my way, I still showed up, I still stayed. You didn't ask me to fall, but I did all the way. And I loved you. Yeah, I loved you.